Hello, everybody. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Let's get it started today because we've got, as always, a discussion to have. Some discussion will be had today. So before we really get into anything, kind of want to give you the rundown of what it is that we're talking about today. Tennessee signed a couple more defensive linemen, a couple of twins, some big guys, the Gaddies. So we'll talk a little bit about them. Could we remove kickoffs from college football? That is something that's on the table as well. And Tiger Woods shuts it down for 2016. I think there's a lot of things to get there and unpack there when it comes to the legacy of Tiger Woods and just general sports legacy conversations. Because of all the people, Tiger Woods is the one who's most interesting because of he was so great, and he's probably not going to end his career on a high note. I mean, you can't say that with 100% certainty, but he probably will not end his career on a high note just because of all the injuries that he's racked up. It seems like he's lost the ability to play golf. He did turn it on a little bit last season. He did win 5 majors back in 2013. Or 5 tournaments, sorry, not majors, 5 tournaments. But it doesn't look like we're going to get back to the Tiger Woods that scared everybody on Sunday when he had a lead. We're never going to get back to that guy again. It doesn't look like. So we'll talk a little bit about that later on. But before we jump into any and all of that, let's talk about where you can find us and where we can find you. I highly recommend social media. Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube are our go-to avenues. Watch our videos on Facebook. They're not archived episodes of local shows. They're peeks into local restaurants, into local issues, local reporting. So make sure to check it out because you want to find out what's happening around Chattanooga, and we're the ones who can give it to you the best. If you want to check us out on YouTube, that's where you can find all the archived episodes of our local shows. You can even stream them live. This show included, Clutch with Keon Rose, is on YouTube live right now. And you can listen to us as well on hotnewstalkradio.com and in the TuneIn Radio app. Again, that's the TuneIn Radio app. Free in your favorite app store. Simply download it. Search Hot News Talk Radio. Give us a favorite and press play. You'll have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go. So there's been some discussion. The competition committee of the NCAA has been meeting up and talking about the possibility of removing kickoffs from college football. And it's a serious conversation that everybody's having. Brett Bielema was on ESPN earlier today. Mike and Mike, well, I mean, he did the whole car wash. I mean, everybody does. You do every show on ESPN. But he did Mike and Mike this morning, and he was talking about removing kickoffs. And he made some great points about the injuries of not kickoffs specifically, special teams plays being double that of any other play in college football. Yeah, if that's the case, then that's something that you really should look into because player safety is very important. And another great point that I felt like he made was that players are bigger, stronger, and faster than they ever have been. Now, I wasn't great at science in school, but one class I did do well in was physics. I didn't do well in biology. I failed chemistry twice, but physics, for some reason, I did really well in physics. I have no idea why. It just made sense to me. Physics, mass times force equals acceleration. Remember that. I will never, ever, ever forget that. Why? Because a big object that is hitting with a lot of force is moving very quickly. Okay, that's just science. That's just science. These guys are bigger and faster than they've ever been, so they are creating a lot of force. And there's something to be said about that because there is no other play in college football where you have guys that big, that large, that fast with like a 30-yard head start into running into each other. Okay, like it's very much unlike the rest of the game. With that said, do you eliminate kickoffs from college football? Because what this comes down to is an issue of the nature of the game, the inherent nature of the game versus player safety. There are plenty of other sports where you do dangerous things all the time. You put your body at risk all the time. You ask your body to do things that the human body was never meant to do, but you can't avoid it because of the nature of the game. I'll give you an example. For instance, baseball. The human arm was not meant to throw a pitch at 105.7 miles per hour like Aroldis Chapman was doing yesterday. That is something your arm was never, ever meant to do. And we have more guys in baseball getting Tommy John surgery to fix the torn ligaments in their elbows because more and more pitchers are pitching faster and faster at a younger and younger age. And you have guys pitching a ball at speeds a human was never meant to generate, right? But you can, but at great risk to your body. And so you come to a certain point, and they have tried to figure out how to fix this, because what you cannot do is remove pitching from the game. That's baseball. Pitching is a part of the game. You can't remove it. You can't say something along the lines, oh, yeah, we'll get a machine to do it. I mean, you can't do that. Pitching is an inherent part of the game. It's part of the nature of the game. So what we're asking here when we talk about removing special teams from college football is, can the player's safety be maintained along with the nature of the game? I'll give you another example, because I was talking the other day to Confederate Mike about this, and we got into a little bit of a squabble, which was he doesn't believe that boxing should be a sport because its entire purpose is to be violent. I mean, that's all it is. It's just violence. Now, I think that there's tactics and strategy there. A sport is a physical game. Okay, to me, that's the baseline definition of a sport. A sport is a physical game. So it doesn't matter to me if the thing is violent. It can still be a sport. If it's a game and it's physical, it's a sport. I mean, that's just, for me, the bottom line of it. You can try and do player safety in boxing. You can have guys wear the headgear. You can have them wear lighter gloves. You can do every number of things that you can do. But inherently, boxing is a violent sport. Karate is a violent sport. Jiu-jitsu is a violent sport. Okay? You cannot remove the violence from these sports because that's the nature of the game. Player safety can only go so far. I mean, the UFC's done a number of things. You can't kick a guy in the face if he's got a knee down on the ground. You come in, you break up fights when a guy's taking a certain number of punches to the face. When you're in a boxing ring, you can't hit below the belt. There are rules that you can institute for player safety, but only insofar as it doesn't destroy the nature of the game. Because then once you do that, you've made a different game. And that's what we're asking with college football, is how inherent, how necessary is the kickoff? Because if by removing the kickoff, you take something away from football that makes football a different game, then you can't take it away. Because that's what's making people mad. People look at you taking away the kickoff and saying, I think you're changing this thing into something else. Because let's be honest with ourselves. If they took kickoffs away, would we still watch college football? Yes. And we'll get over it. We do all the time. We groaned and mumbled and complained when they moved the kick yard line up to the 20. Oh no, there's going to be so many more touchbacks. And we just got used to it. We just kept watching it until we got used to it. I'm sure a number of alternatives to just simply eliminating the kickoff from college football, but we don't like the removal of that because it's a play in the game that we think of as being incredibly thrilling, which we associate with football and the nature of the game. And then football is a gigantic battle for field position, which it always starts with the kickoff. If your special teams messes up, you don't deserve to just start off on the 25-yard line. You need to run the ball out here and try and get to the 25. Okay, and it's not my fault if you can't get past 15. And teams that aren't able to start on the 20-yard line or further up score many, many less touchdowns than teams that can, statistically. So we consider the kickoff to be part of the nature of the game. But if we eliminated the kickoff, would the game really change that much? Your strategies would all have to change. You couldn't rely on an onside kick. But does that make you necessarily out of a game? You still would have punts. You still would have field goals, presumably. You just wouldn't have kickoffs. And everybody starting from the same position on the field, means that you don't get to rely on your special teams to eliminate somebody else. It's the same thing with the NBA eliminating the hack-a-player rule. You could hack Shaq because he's a terrible free throw shooter. You could hack DeAndre Jordan or Andre Drummond because they can't shoot free throws. And to me, I like that you can hack those guys. I understand that visually it doesn't make for an appealing basketball game to watch, but shooting free throws is part of the game of basketball. If I remember this correctly. So if you can't help your team by being able to shoot free throws, I don't see why you should be bailed out from being able to shoot free throws. If I want to foul you on purpose and make you shoot free throws, learn how to shoot free throws. Lock yourself in the gym one summer and don't leave until you can shoot free throws. Or several summers, as many summers as it takes. Don't go out partying. Don't go out to the club until you can make some free throws. And then, hey, if once you can shoot over 70%, guess what will happen? People will stop hacking you. People will stop fouling you. Okay? You did that to yourself. I don't want to bail out for you. And when you've got teams that have got bad special teams, that's more or less what you're worried about. I don't want to bail out those teams. I don't want to bail out a team that's not good at special teams. But they're already eliminating kickoffs from football. I think this is one of those things. A lot of things start in the NFL and trickle on down. This is one of those things that trickles on up. You're listening to Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rosen. We're talking about removing kickoffs from college football. But it started in Pop Warner football. The ages 10 and under leagues nationally do not have kickoffs in football anymore. Because who wants 10-year-olds running around endangering themselves on kickoffs? The earlier you do that, the more risk you put at yourself. I mean, take, for example, Derek Shealy, the Division III player that died in a kickoff play. You might say, well, it's a fluke. Should a sport kill a man, though? Even as a fluke. I mean, it's a contact sport, so it's not all that fluky. It's not like if somebody died playing golf. That's a fluke. When you make several contacts at high collision speeds over and over and over again, we're not talking about a fluke anymore. And for the record, I'm not saying we should eliminate kickoffs from college football. But for all of those people out there acting like this is a conversation that is just absolutely ridiculous and beyond the realm of reason, I say to you, how do you figure? Because think about it. Just think about it. The sport is violent and it is dangerous. And we know that people are being injured on these particular special teams plays, punts and kick returns, almost twice as often as any other play on the field. That's something that you do have to look at. Okay. And I understand I understand the guy that comes in and says, hey, football's been a dangerous game. Nothing's changed, but we never knew the ways in which it was dangerous. And shouldn't the extra information help us to react differently? Shouldn't it? I mean, shouldn't it help you react differently? If you knew that you were going to do something that was going to injure you, does it make a difference how you get injured? Okay, if you were working a construction job, I mean, construction workers get hurt a lot, but there's a difference between working at a place where something is damaging to your skin, you deal with chemicals and they're damaging to your skin, and something else that could cause you to lose an arm or lose an eye or lose a leg. Does that make a difference to you? Because the more information we have, we find that the more ways the players are getting injured, there's way more ways than we considered. We never considered that players were dying of dementia, of CTE. We never considered that. Yeah, we knew the game was dangerous, and yeah, we knew concussions weren't good for your brain. Your head, your brain moving around in the case that is your skull isn't a good thing. Like, we got that already. But we didn't know that even the little hits count. That should affect the way we look at the game. Now, I understand to a certain level, as you become educated, I don't think that means you eliminate the game, but as you become educated, I think that should decide, like, the players should decide, okay, like, I can't do this. Like, I can't do this with my life. But there's a certain level, a certain responsibility that you have to protect people, especially when it comes to college football. Because if you're saying that these athletes are not employees, but student athletes, you refuse to pay them, they're under your charge, they're under your watch, you're taking care of them, you're the father figure. It's a lot of coaches run that one out there. You're the father figure for a lot of these guys. Okay, then protect them. Because that's what dads do. Dads protect their kids. So if you're going to go out there and call yourself a father figure, then you might want to consider protecting somebody. Now, maybe you don't think that applies to the NFL, and maybe it doesn't, because now you do have paid professionals. You do have people who are going out there understanding that they're putting their bodies on the line, and in exchange for doing that, they make a lot of money. It's different. But when it comes to someone who's 18, 19 years old, can't make that decision for themselves, and they're not getting paid to make that decision, then you got to protect them. Now, I think that there are ways to get around this. Certainly, the Canadian Football League and the wider field, that's one way that you have. You just end up with less collisions if you have the same amount of people trying to hit each other on a wider space of field, but it also means that the sideline isn't as near either. You do, in a way, invite more collisions in that way, but I find it difficult to believe that removing kickoffs from college football would be the worst thing that ever happened. I'm not saying I'm a fan. I'm just saying it's not the worst thing that ever happened, no? You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Other news from this morning, Nick Saban also took a ride in the car wash, and he had some interesting things to say about Deshaun Watson, quarterback of Clemson, who, of course, Alabama beat in the national title game last season. Some high praise to Deshaun Watson, calling Deshaun Watson, and I quote, the most significantly dominant player that we played against since Cam Newton in 2010. That guy coming back for that team is going to make them a very, very competitive team in terms of being in a championship arena again. That's what Nick Saban told ESPN's College Football Live. So that's some pretty high praise there. Deshaun Watson is the most dominant player they faced since Cam Newton, but I'd be hard-pressed to disagree with Nick Saban. For number one, Nick Saban knows a hell of a lot more about college football than I do. But two, Deshaun Watson is that guy. He's going to win the Heisman. I'm calling it from now. I think he's going to win the Heisman this season. He's every bit as fast and freaky athletic as RG3 and Cam Newton. He's got an arm that reminds me of Andrew Luck. I mean, he is a good quarterback prospect, and the things that he can do on a football field, scary. I mean, you talk about the dual threat guys. I mean, very rarely are guys that scary with both options, right? Like, usually a dual threat guy is so scary with his legs that stuff opens up with his arm. But if Deshaun Watson stands back in the pocket, he can take you apart too. I mean, he can do that as well. I mean, there's no good reason why he shouldn't win the Heisman. I want to choose Leonard Fournette. I did choose Leonard Fournette last year, and I ended up being wrong about that one because Derrick Henry surged later on in the season. But it's easier for a quarterback to win the Heisman, and when a quarterback can run as well and pass as well as Deshaun Watson, I find it very hard to believe that he's not going to be the front runner to win that thing. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Does Tiger Woods have anything left in the tank? Next.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. You and I know that real men are prepared for anything. You know what I'm talking about because you're a Take Charge guy. Everyone's talking about Grimm's Tactical, featuring first responder gear, survival gear and equipment, Voodoo Tactical, Leapers. For personal protection, Grimm's Tactical features non-lethal personal protection gear, AR/AK parts, knives, canning and dehydrating equipment. If you hike and camp, Grimm's Tactical has got what you're looking for, bagged in packs. And for your side piece, concealed carry holsters for men and women. Plus, Grimm's Tactical carries a wide variety of freeze-dried food. Wise Mountain House, Backpacker's Pantry, Grimm's Tactical, where law enforcement shops, Safari Lane, Blackhawk, 511. First responder gear at Grimm's Tactical. Grimm's Tactical, 8115 East Brainerd Road, in the shopping center next to the Walmart Marketplace. Look for the Mighty Mini U-Haul office. Grimm's Tactical is right next door. Grimm's Tactical, 8115 East Brainerd Road. Finding just the right place to live can be a daunting task. Stop your search. In Chattanooga, the place to live is Cross Creek Villas for under $1,000 and available for immediate move-in. You can enjoy this 2-bedroom split layout, over 1,000 square feet, 9-foot ceilings, an extra-large patio or balcony. And don't forget to ask about their preferred employer program. Cross Creek Villas is a gated community offering a 24-hour fitness facility, a beautiful pool and hot tub, and Cross Creek Villas is pet-friendly. Stroll the pet park with your best friend and enjoy the free use of their business center and clubhouse. Plus, if you mention you heard this on the radio, your application fee is free. Cross Creek Villas, close to downtown off of Highway 58. Go to crosscreekchattanooga.com. That's crosscreekchattanooga.com or call 894-0446. That's 894-0446. Redefine the way you live at Cross Creek Villas. Go to crosscreekchattanooga.com or call 894-0446. Cross Creek Villas.
Becoming fair out there through the nighttime. Muggy overnight, lows into the lower 70s. For the midweek, heat wave heading our way. Lots of hazy sunshine. Looking dry for a while. Highs tomorrow into the upper 90s. Close to 100 on Thursday with that heat index well over 100 through the midweek. Taco Bell has a new limited edition triple double crunch wrap. It's the crunch wrap you love with a second layer of seasoned beef, warm nacho cheese sauce, and crunchy tostada only at Taco Bell. And I'm Source Sheen 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. Police say a 2-year-old child fell out of a second-story window while the babysitter was on meth. The child had already been taken to the hospital for multiple injuries, including 2 broken legs, a fractured femur, broken pelvis, a spinal injury, and scratches and bruises when the police arrived. Investigators say they did a drug test on the babysitter and found that she was under the influence of methamphetamine. The child's mother said she left her with the woman when she went to get groceries. There's a robbery at the American Trust Cash Advance on Cummings Highway. 2 black men walked into the business, duct taped a female employee, and emptied the cash registers, all while armed with a black pistol. They then escaped, the police say, in a stolen truck. That truck has since been recovered, but the 2 suspects have not been. And a woman who's from Chattanooga, who's now in Savannah, has been arrested after the police say she waved a loaded gun on the streets of Savannah at the U.S. Customs House at the intersection of Bull and Bay Street at 10 p.m. Saturday night. She's been arrested. It's going on in the Tennessee Valley. It's going on Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
Hot News Talk 1240.
I get that the SEC's got a reputation of, shall I say, taking it easy. Because I hear that all the time. Just when I hear national people, right? I listen to a lot of national radio because those are the guys I grew up listening to. My dad was in the Army. We moved around a bunch. So we didn't listen to any one market. There wasn't a single market that I enjoyed listening to. I ended up listening to anybody. So the national guys are the guys that I remember best when I was a kid listening to the radio. I thought those guys were really cool. And that's how I wound up here in a lot of ways was I want to be like those guys. I mean, those guys are really, really cool. So I wanted to listen to those guys. And I listen to Colin Cowherd a lot because I think he's really good. I mean, I don't think he's just really good. I think he might be the best on sports radio. But he says a lot of controversial things. As guys who tend to be at the top of this game do, they say controversial things. They get people riled up. They get people angry. They get people mad, especially local guys like myself. You're in a local market. I'm in Chattanooga. I'm in the South. I'm in SEC country. He says something about the SEC. It's supposed to make me feel all angry inside. And you know what? It's pretty effective. He wouldn't be good if it wasn't effective. And judging by the post that we get on our Facebook page about Colin Cowherd, I know it's very effective because he's gotten under your skins as well. But here's the deal. I disagree. I think that he's very wrong about this particular take. And if you were listening to the radio, maybe you caught it this morning on the herd with Colin Cowherd. Colin accused Alabama. He accused Alabama and Arkansas of manipulating their schedules so that they have cream puffs to play. They don't play anybody. That's what he said. They don't play anybody. Alabama takes a month off during the season. I disagree with that. I disagree with that a lot. They have a month to prepare for USC. Same thing applies for USC. USC has a month to prepare for Alabama. Alabama does play Western Kentucky. Alabama does play UTC. Fair enough. Those are the soft teams on the schedule. But you can't talk about Alabama playing softer teams on the schedule. I'm looking forward to that UTC game a lot, by the way. Because if you want to talk about a school that's been growing and emerging and making many strides along the way, Coach Russ Huseman's got his guys playing at a very high level. I'm excited about UTC this season, just saying. But before we jump down that particular rabbit hole, let's get back to Alabama, because I'm interested in what the response of this is, because he just skimmed over the fact that in the schedule, Alabama plays Arkansas, Tennessee, Texas A&M, and LSU 4 consecutive games. 4 games in a row. They play Arkansas, who's always good. They play Tennessee, projected to win the East. Texas A&M, a sleeper team for a lot of people to win the SEC West. If you had to pick a dark horse, I would think them. And then LSU, who is the favorite to win the West, if not Alabama. I mean, LSU could legitimately win the SEC West. That's why they can't be a dark horse. They are good enough to outright win the division. The defense is solid. Yeah, Brandon Harris, you're a little shaky at that quarterback position, but you've got arguably the best running back in college football. Why can't you just out and out win the SEC? There's no reason. LSU's good enough. And that's their 4th game in a row. It's possible for Alabama to drop any number of those 4 games. You possibly drop the Tennessee game, and possibly drop the LSU game. And watch out for Texas A&M adding Trevor Knight at quarterback. They're still around. Okay? I mean, we're looking at a very tough stretch of games. Where's the rest? it's not like they have all these bad teams in a row. They didn't schedule 3 bad teams in a row. You got a bad team here, you got a bad team there. But everybody's got that. And then to criticize Arkansas for having a weak schedule is also ridiculous to me. Yes, on the schedule for Arkansas at points in the season, 3 points in the season, early, are Louisiana Tech, Texas State, Alcorn State. But you don't get away with failing to mention that Arkansas plays TCU the second week of the season. So that's a tough non-conference game. And then they play 7 SEC schools to end the season. 7 schools in a row. They play Bama. Then they play Ole Miss. Then they play Auburn. Then they play Florida. Then they play LSU. Then Mississippi State. And then they end on Missouri. That's 7 in a row. Yeah, Arkansas has not come out of this one unscathed. And by the way, consistently, Arkansas has one of the nation's toughest schedules year in and year out. If they play in the SEC West, and they're not spacing out all of these teams with puff games. I mean, sure, they get the puffery in there early, and then from there on out, it's murderer's row. I mean, that's just ridiculous. I think this instance is a little bit of falling in love with your own voice, right? Like, there's no way that you're seriously thinking that Alabama's cream puff in the schedule just to avoid a little bit of tough games is when you've got 4 tough teams in a row to play. I'm sorry, that's the toughest 4-game stretch I imagine of all the top schools. Are you serious? Arkansas, Tennessee, Texas A&M, and LSU. They could lose 2 out of those 4. Very easily. It's very possible. Okay? I mean, Alabama's got a little bit of a soft spot at linebacker. The middle of that defense is a little soft. They've got to replace talent, and we're going to see if the guys that they've brought in are they're ready to play. I mean, it's not a done deal. I just think that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I listened to that this morning, and I was like, I am talking about that on the show. Yeah, Colin's great though. Check him out. The Herd with Colin Cowherd. What, noon to 3 here on Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, and then you want to have your say, call the Hot News hotline at 423-800-8949, 423-800-8949. Here is the story with Tiger Woods. He's calling it quits for the rest of the season. He is not going to participate in any more tournaments, majors or otherwise, for 2016. He's still recovering from the back surgery, which I completely understand because it's his 3rd back surgery since March 2014. That's 3 back surgeries in 2 years. Now, I don't know if you've ever had back problems. I used to work at Amazon and World Market, and I can honestly say, without the shadow of a doubt, your back hurts. When your back hurts, it's kind of over for you. You really can't do anything else. You hope you can stand up without pain. Now, Amazon, at least, they teach you how to pick stuff up without hurting your back. So you hurt your back at Amazon, that's kind of on you. But I've worked in places where you're just bending over and picking stuff up constantly, and you have no choice if you want to do it quickly. There's really no way around that. Your back hurts when you're done working. I mean, golfers put a lot of torsional force on their back, that twisting motion of hitting a great shot. Tiger Woods earlier this year tried to reassure people that he was going to be fine and hit some golf balls, kerplunk, right into the water. You hit the first one into the water, and you're like, oh, okay, he's going to hit a second one. Surely this one too will not also go into the water, except that it did directly into the water. Dude's got no control right now because his back is messed up. 6 ways from Sunday. I mean, what do you expect him to do at that point? But we keep talking about Tiger Woods because we wonder if this guy will ever get back to the way that he was. And why do we want that? Because golf still has a Tiger-like void to fill. I understand. There are a lot of great golfers playing at a very high level. Okay? But we don't have anybody that's playing at a transcendent level. We don't have anybody that's dominating the sport right now. And that's important for these single-player sports, for individual player sports. Golf and tennis, chief among them, right? Or if you even talk about the Olympics and track and field, Usain Bolt, name another person that's running track and field. Why do we care about track and field? Because there's a guy out there dominating. Look at tennis. Name the top players in the men's game. Novak Djokovic. Okay. He's the best right now. Roger Federer, past his prime. He's on the downside of his career. Rafael Nadal, also on the downside of his career and never healthy. Andy Murray, pretty much exclusively wins Wimbledon and nothing else. So nobody cares about men's tennis. Like, between Federer and Nadal, those are guys that we've been hearing for the last decade. And tennis was better when Federer was more dominant. Look at the women's game. The women's game is more popular. It's more fun to watch. Who's at the top of the women's game? Serena Williams. Name another women's player. You can't. But it doesn't matter. Because if you're a casual tennis fan, if you're someone who tunes in every now and then, you recognize enough people, but you want to see Serena. If you're somebody that doesn't really watch tennis at all, you still know who Serena Williams is. And that's great for tennis. It's great when one person is dominating. In fact, I would argue that dominance is what's great for sports. I listen to Colin Cowherd, like I said, on this station, Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, noon to 3, The Herd with Colin Cowherd. One of the things that he talks about a lot is when traditional powers are good, that's good for the sport. And I disagree. When anybody dominates, it's great for the sport, but they have to dominate. They can't be kind of good. They can't be pretty good. They've got to dominate. And Tiger Woods used to dominate. And golf doesn't have anybody to fill that hole. And there are a lot of good golfers playing at a high level. Rory McIlroy, Dustin Johnson, Jason Day. Those guys are great. They're not transcendent. And nobody is dominating right now. Okay? You get dominant performances. Jason Day at the U.S. Open, Henrik Stenson at the British Open this past weekend. You get performances, but you don't get one guy dominating. We saw that for a little bit. We saw a flash of it last year with Jordan Spieth. Jordan Spieth looked like he was going to take over the golf world. He went on a tear, but he's kind of come back down to earth. He looks like another one of these guys, a really, really good golfer, but not transcendent. I think he can still reach there. I mean, Jordan Spieth is very young. Rory, too. Ricky Fowler, I think, is the guy that's going to probably come on later in his career because he's got all the tools, and I have no good reason why it is that Ricky can't put it all together and be great. But none of those guys dominates. And that's the gap that we're left to fill with Tiger. And I guess because Tiger was the guy, we hope that Tiger can get back there and fill it. And I don't know why we think that, but we do. Tiger's still relevant to golf. I bet you every show in America did a segment on Tiger Woods. So you know he's still relevant. This conversation of him and with him still matters, but he's no longer the best thing about golf. All the other guys I just named, they mean more to golf than he does because they're actually playing. But he's still the most interesting, though. That's the thing about Tiger Woods, is that the story of Tiger Woods' downfall makes for more frequent and better conversation than how good anybody else is doing. it's an interesting conversation because you don't see it very often where a guy falls apart all at once. Tiger Woods won a major in 2008 and then never again. There was a point where we thought for certain, Tiger Woods was going to win more majors than anybody in the history of the game. Like you'd have to be ridiculous to think that he wouldn't. And now you have to be ridiculous to think that he can. And how we got there seemed so quickly. It wasn't like Tiger Woods just slowly declined. Or at least the way it looked like to us. Maybe if you go back and watch how he fell off, maybe that's the way it looks. But living in the moment, it certainly didn't look to happen gradually. It seemed to happen overnight. He fell off of a cliff, and it coincided with the biggest scandal of his career, and possibly one of the biggest scandals to rock the sports world, which was his infidelity in his marriage. The fact that those two things coincide does make this conversation a much more interesting conversation, most certainly. But Tiger Woods shutting it down, to me, is an interesting conversation because Tiger is an interesting conversation. It's not an interesting conversation in as much as it affects golf. Because I watched the British Open and enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it without Tiger. I enjoyed the Masters this year without Tiger. I watched the majors, and I watched some of the other tournaments too. I watched the Bridgestone, which I believe is the last tournament that Tiger won as well. Tiger has dominated the Bridgestone his whole life, basically. I'll watch a few tournaments throughout, and I'll stop in. I'll watch on a Thursday. I'll watch on a Friday. I'll watch the recaps on Saturday night, and then I'll stop in on a Sunday. I think pretty much just for the Masters and U.S. Open do I sit down and go, I'm watching all 4 days of this thing. But basically, you can watch all those things and enjoy it without Tiger, but you still want that void to be filled. I just think that we should stop looking for Tiger to be the guy to fill the Tiger void. Somebody else is going to have to show up and dominate golf in a way that captures our imaginations again. Because when you look at sports, fighting sports, golf, tennis, individual sports tend to be far more enjoyable when there's somebody dominating. We appreciate it more for whatever reason. Individual greatness. Nobody cares about the women's division of the UFC now that Ronda Rousey's gone, because they haven't had somebody consistently hold that belt since she's been gone. Holly Holm, who knocked out Ronda Rousey, lost the belt to Miesha Tate. And Miesha Tate got knocked out in UFC 202, or whatever the last UFC was. There's too many numbers. I need to start naming these events. Can't all be numbers. There's too many numbers. Like, are they seriously going to count all UFCs up into infinity? I don't. Really? Okay. I don't get that. But Tiger Woods opting to shut it down in 2016. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. Clutch with Keon Rose. That's me. Thank you for joining me today. Making me just a small part of your day. You know that I appreciate you. Let me tell you about where you can find us very, very quickly. I highly, highly recommend all of the social media, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Make sure to stop in on those, and make sure to leave us a comment. Drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. Friend us, like us, add us, subscribe, depending on wherever you go. Get to all of our social media pages from hotnewstalkradio.com. And get to our radio stream in the TuneIn Radio app. Simply search Hot News Talk Radio in the app, give us a favorite, and press play. The TuneIn Radio app is absolutely free and available in your favorite app store. I swore off of Johnny Manziel stories, but this is a little interesting. Obviously, I don't know if you heard, but obviously Johnny Manziel is trying to turn his life back around. If he wanted to continue playing football, we all knew he would have to eventually. Johnny Manziel is a guy that he promised to do better last year. When he first went into rehab a year ago, Johnny Manziel promised to do better. And then for a little while he was getting in the playbook. For a little while he looked like he righted the ship. He was heading in the right direction. I've talked on a number of occasions about how Johnny Manziel's got a problem. And the reason why I try and not to cover Johnny Manziel frequently is because it almost seems very exploitative of a person who just has issues. I see the media cover Johnny Manziel. Oh, look, he's down at a party in Cabo. Okay, fine. He's trashed somebody's house. All right, cool. He's wearing a Josh Gordon jersey. All right. I mean, all right. I don't know what to tell you there. He's gotten into an Instagram fight with his dad. Like, who cares? Can I be completely forthright with you there? Who cares? Nobody cares, because Johnny Manziel needs help. But Johnny Manziel, as of July 1st, has stopped drinking. He said he is not forever given up drinking, but he has given up drinking for now, which is something. But he's trying to get back into football, and I don't think this is going to work for him the way that he thinks this is going to work for him, because he's got a domestic abuse case on his hands, which means that were a team to sign him, they'd also have to deal with the fact that he can't play for 4 games. He'll be automatically serving a 4-game suspension per the NFL's rules. And that's if he manages to escape jail time for what he allegedly did to his girlfriend in Texas, which is hitting her multiple times in the face, is what he's alleged to have done. So there's that. And then you've got this entire issue of, we're not sure that Johnny Manziel is actually good at playing football at the NFL level. And if you look at how things panned out for Greg Hardy, because Greg Hardy is good at playing football at the NFL level, and Greg Hardy had a lot of those same things hanging over him. He had to serve the suspension before he could play for the Dallas Cowboys. He did. There was the public backlash that the Cowboys had to answer to for signing a guy that allegedly choked his girlfriend on a pile of guns. And inevitably and eventually, the Cowboys released Greg Hardy. Well, if they're going to release Greg Hardy, what makes Johnny Manziel think that people are going to gamble on him? People don't have time to waste on bad quarterbacks. And we've seen what appears to be the limits of what Johnny can do, and it ain't great. It's not bad, but it ain't great. No one's going to gamble time, resources, public relations on maybe he's average. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. Clutch with Keon Rose. Remember, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch. I'll see you in 24 hours. Stick around. Free Talk Live is next.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.